Today I'll recap a war movie from 1997 called Paradise Road, based on real-life events. Spoilers ahead. The movie begins in a hotel in Singapore, in 1942. A party is taking place. Wealthy people drink, laugh, dance, and listen to live music. Everything seems to work perfectly, but all of a sudden, a missile explodes nearby the hotel facilities. Everyone waits for a second explosion, but none of it occurs. Instead, the party continues, almost as if nothing happened. Moments later, a group of men enters the party. One of them, the general of the group of soldiers, explains to the guests that the Japanese have crossed the front line. He also details that it's just a matter of days before the enemy troops take over the entire city. So, the general orders women and children to evacuate the area immediately. Hours later, every woman and children make it to the ship. Sailors hand in life jackets, to ensure the passengers' safety at all costs. Some women believe their pulled out will be temporary, and they'll be back in Singapore in less than a month. The boat continues its sailing. An old woman called Mrs. Drummond tells stories to the children, so they can find the trip a little more amusing. Their amusement is soon disrupted by a set of Japanese airplanes raiding the blue sky. Women and children run for cover, while soldiers get ready to defend the ship. Sadly, the anti-aircrafts are not enough. In the blink of an eye, the Japanese planes drop their bombs and blow the ships out. As a result, fire catches the machinery and the main rooms of the ship. Needless to say, passengers are ordered to abandon the ship as soon as possible. In the heat of the moment, though, 3 women end up floating in the middle of the ocean, with no safety ship whatsoever. They won't give up, so they swim toward the nearest shore. The poor women swim all night long until they reach dry land. It seems that they have made it to a deserted island. Nonetheless, they do their best to contact civilization of some kind. They get deeper into the jungle and forests, finally getting to an open field. The exhausted drifters decide to take a short rest there. At that moment, they realize they have never presented with each other. Once the girls have recovered from their tiresome trip, they stand up and move on. Eventually, they make it to a route, which means that the place is far from being deserted. Not only it is not abandoned, but also full of people. The women meet some soldiers and villagers riding their bicycles through the route. Not a single man stops a single minute to take a look at them and ask if they are okay. That is until a car passes next to them. The man from the car offers his help, and the disoriented girls accept the ride. The man is a Japanese soldier that fought in Singapore for several years. He soon finds out the girls are the survivors of the attacked ship. The Japanese soldier defends his position and nation, excusing himself that everything's fair in war, as long as it ensures victory. The car makes it to the city and the women get out of it. The Japanese soldier says farewell to them and leaves them on their own. Immediately after that, the poor women are dragged by a handful of angry soldiers that take them as prisoners. However, these 3 girls are not the only ones who were taken as war prisoners. In reality, there are dozens, maybe hundreds of them. Susan, Adrian, and Rosemary are led to a prison camp. Who knows how much time will they be there? The sun rises the next morning and the women are awakened up by the violent sound of sticks against the walls. Minutes later, the protagonists of this story are silent still, and standing in a queue. One of the generals begins with a harsh speech. He clearly explains that the time has come for the East to take over the power. Now, European nations will be the ones under the East's power. One naive woman raises her hand and tries to ask a question. She's immediately reprimanded by one of the authoritative figures there. The woman receives a brutal blow in her face, and so do the rest of her friends. Right after that, everyone's forced to get down on their knees and worship their new leader. The cruel moment is over, for now, and the women have to cook for everyone. Oddly enough, the protagonists never lose hope. They strongly believe the war will be over soon, and that they'll return home safe and secure. Unfortunately, a Japanese woman places their feet on the ground again. She says that the war is not likely to be over shortly. On top of that, she explains that Japanese forces loathe women, and, more precisely, European women. Task after task, the 3 ladies work their fingers to the bone, either picking up the rice in the fields or filling buckets of water for hours. However, the worst task of them all has to be to clean the residual water to use as fertilizers. Some of the girls fear England will lose the war. However, some others' faith is much stronger, still expecting to be rescued. Dreams shattered the more time passes by. Eventually, it's Christmas season, and many prisoners have passed away because of the cruel living conditions. One of them, a quite old woman, has gotten ill severely. She needs medicine immediately, but of course, the authorities won't provide any little bit. One of the women, then, takes courage and decides to steal some medicine to help the helpless old woman. The woman successfully grabs the jar of medicine and guards her in her pockets. All of a sudden, though, an alarm goes off. Lights gleam through the night, looking for intruders. The scared woman rushes back to the base, avoiding every guard and security light with admirable stealth. Luckily, the mission is a success. The brave woman brought the medicine to the ill lady. The following morning, the women are gathered for an important reunion. What will happen? Believe it or not, Captain Tanaka appears. Tanaka is none other than the driver who offered a lift to the girls before being raptured. The girls cannot believe their eyes. Not to mention, they are about to witness an atrocity. The woman who stole the medicine ends up being discovered. She's dragged to the center of the field and showered in gasoline. With cold, dead eyes, Captain Tanaka grabs a match, sets it on, then throws it over the woman's body. After witnessing such a morbid scene, the women feel hopeless and with little to no energy to do anything. Somehow, Adrienne is in a mood to sing a song, maybe to forget about her gloomy lifestyle. One of the women recognizes the song, and they both realize they have studied music in the past. This odd event will define the future of the protagonists. Excitedly, the woman shares the idea of creating an orchestra to express their emotions. The prisoners, however, savagely laugh at her. Naturally, they believe that the Japanese will never give them instruments, to begin with. Adrienne insists. She believes that she doesn't need any instruments. After all, she will be using her voice. She begins to look for more singers for her musical group. The next morning, the first rehearsal takes place. That is until the guard disperses the women's meeting. Unsurprisingly, these kinds of meetings are strictly prohibited. The rebellious women, of course, continue with their meetings, this time a little doing it in smaller groups so as not to attract attention. One day, the sergeant breaks into the barracks and gives one of the ladies a piece of paper. This paper contains a list of names for recruitment, but recruitment for what? These ladies are taken to the city under the surveillance of the guards and later received in a beautiful house with a table full of food. They are told that the mansion is a club of the most trained and educated Japanese officers. Long story short, the house is needing volunteer workers in exchange for food, shelter, and comfortable sheets. Some of the prisoners accept the offer without hesitations. Some others, however, refuse the deal and keep with the rest of the group. One night, Adrienne goes to the bathroom, but she's savagely attacked by a soldier. Adrienne defends herself and throws the soldier to the floor. More guards appear and take the prisoner down. They lock Adrienne in a cage and wait for Captain Tanaka to appear the following day. He will decide the woman's fate. The next morning, the captain appears in front of the caged woman. He calmly explains that the reason she's behind the bars is that she most probably didn't show respect to the guards. Of course, Adrienne angrily confesses that she was just defending herself from an aggressive man that took her by surprise. Far from being heard, Adrienne is beaten up by Captain Tanaka. The decision has been taken, Adrienne's last day will be tomorrow. Nonetheless, the event is postponed. At night, Adrienne gives a signal and the group of women begins to sing. This event mesmerizes the guards, who find the singing surprising and amusing. After that, a chief soldier takes Adrienne to a forest. Adrienne doesn't know what will happen to her, although she figures out her mind. Surprisingly, the man does not harm the woman. Instead, he sings in front of her. After that, the guard asks Adrienne if he sings well. Adrienne just cannot believe it. Needless to say, she says that indeed, the man sings pretty well. It seems that Adrienne will survive after all. On the other hand, Susan is taken away from the group because she played a bad taste joke on Captain Tanaka. Susan is kept as a prisoner all night long, under a savage medieval-like method. One of the women approaches the captain and convinces him of letting Susan go. The woman explains that such behavior won't be well seen in the eyes of the winners. Captain Tanaka barely considers the woman's comments. The next day, the captain takes his sword out and prepares it to harm Susan. And by harm, he means to permanently take her breath away. At the last moment, though, the captain repents. It seems that he has thoroughly thought about it. Time passes by. The women use their artistic talents to entertain officers and captains. There's a translator who secretly tells the women that Japan may lose the war soon. After that, the women are placed on a train and taken to a different prison. This barrack is filthy and far from being comfortable. However, the women do their best to make themselves feel as comfortable as possible. More women die, and some others get ill. It seems that their survival attempt has been futile, but luckily, the war indeed finishes. The camp gates are opened and the women realize they are been rescued. The Allied troops saved the lives of the remaining prisoners. In the end, half of the singer members passed away. Some others ended up so weak that they were unable to sing again. However, the ones that did survive ended up as friends, who continue meeting and singing their hopeful and brave songs.